Thank you for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes, and this is Missing on NewsNation. Each week, we cover a missing person case, no matter their race, religion, background, or circumstances, because every missing person matters, has a story, and has someone who cares about them. Many of the cases we cover come from you, and we thank you for that. Several cases to update you on before we get to this week's featured case of Sebastian Rogers. First, the disappearance of Anna Maria Knezevich remains a mystery, but a major piece of that puzzle may have now fallen into place. Police this week arrested Anna's estranged husband, David Knezevich. He was taken into custody in Miami in connection with her disappearance. She was reported missing in February after she failed to meet a friend to travel from Madrid to Barcelona. Concerns then escalated when Spanish authorities found no evidence of a robbery during a search of Anna's apartment. The disappearance happened the same night an unidentified individual was spotted vandalizing security cameras in her apartment building with spray paint. According to a new affidavit in the case, the man caught on camera resembles the estranged husband, Knezevich. Court documents now reveal that another camera captured a man appearing to be David Knezevich purchasing a spray paint bottle and 2 rolls of duct tape prior to Anna's disappearance. An attorney for David Knezevich spoke with my NewsNation colleague, Chris Cuomo, back in February when she disappeared. And at the time, he maintained his client had done nothing wrong and had nothing to do with her disappearance. Here's part of that.
He has been aiding the authorities and helping them in any way he can. I don't know if it's reasonable to expect that he fly to another country that he doesn't know the language, doesn't have a place to stay, and somehow that's going to make it a better search than is already ongoing.
Now, several months later, David Knezevich has been charged with kidnapping. There has still been no sign of Anna. She had moved to Spain and been living there on and off after her marriage fell apart and the two were getting a divorce. Her family is also now speaking out publicly, calling for justice and pleading with the public to help find Anna.
We're shocked, devastated, traumatized. It's just been very hard for us.
David Knezevich will be back in court this week. Meanwhile, the search has ended tragically for 3 missing surfers in Mexico. Another case we've been covering. The bodies of Jack Carter Rode, an American, and Australian brothers Jake and Callum Robinson were found in a 50-foot well in Baja, Mexico. The 3 had traveled to that area to go camping and surfing together. Police say they were victims of a robbery. When they resisted giving up their truck, they were shot and killed. Investigators say it happened in an isolated area where there was no cell service and there were no witnesses. 2 men and a woman are now in custody, and 2 others are under investigation. I spoke with a man who is friends with the Callum brothers, Callum Robinson. He was supposed to go on that trip with them, but he didn't go. He canceled because of a work obligation, and he describes this area the men were killed as a safe place.
My grandfather brought me there as a toddler, and we came there every Thanksgiving with all of our family, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my parents. And throughout the decades, I brought my family there, and I even camped there by myself last May. It's always been a sacred place to our family, and it's always been a real peaceful and tranquil place. Nothing's ever happened there before. And that's why I drew a map to go there, because it was a special place to me, and I thought everything would be fine.
Randy says despite what has happened to his friends, he will go back to that area, but admits that since he's been visiting Baja for the last 20 years, the cartel activity has raised concerns about safety and travel there. Family and friends of a man from Michigan are hoping the public can help bring their loved one home. The last time anyone heard from Craig Lyles was in January of 2021. He is from Waterford Township, Michigan. He is a choir director, active in his local church, and described by his family as kind and loving, the glue that holds his family together.
That was his favorite thing to do. Get the family together, everybody. I mean, from the babies on up to our older family members. He always had a set time for the older family members before the younger ones come together and kind of enjoy ourselves. We have a moment with our older aunties and uncles, just so that everybody enjoys this special day that he planned for all of us.
Police say Craig's boyfriend, at the time he went missing, failed a polygraph test and has been named a person of interest in the case. However, there has not been enough evidence to make an arrest. Police also don't know the whereabouts of that boyfriend. His name is Michael Butler Jr., but they believe he may be in Texas. Family and friends say there were signs of a struggle at the apartment Lyle shared with Butler. Police say the damage was likely from an argument the pair had had a month prior. The family saying they would like closure and they are not giving up hope. Someone out there knows something about what happened to Craig Lyles. If you have any information that can help in the search for him, an anonymous tip line has been set up. You can submit information to Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK UP. You can also contact the Waterford Township Police Department in Michigan at 248-618-6041. Now for this week's featured missing case, there is renewed hope in the search for a young man named Sebastian Rogers. He's a teen from Tennessee. He is just 15 years old and he is on the autism spectrum. And he was reported missing on February 26th from his home in Hendersonville. That is in Sumner County, Tennessee. Sebastian's mom says that he was gone when she went to wake him up for school that day. Police say there has been no evidence of foul play, and the family is cooperating. Authorities have scoured miles of land looking for Sebastian, but there have been no leads to this point. There was a recent picture that got the family's hopes up of a teen resembling Sebastian. It was circulating on the internet. Sebastian's dad was hopeful it was him. However, it turns out it is not. That picture is a fake, an AI-generated image, according to the sheriff's department. Now, in early April, law enforcement said that they were still actively searching for Sebastian, and at this point, they're not ruling anything out.
Enforcement has not, drawn any conclusions. So we need to keep hope up and keep praying for this young teen and his parents and his dad that, he's going to be found. We just got to keep the faith.
Meantime, volunteers with the United Cajun Navy also joined in this search early on at the family's request, but they pulled back after they started receiving some threats. I spoke with one of the members of that search group about the unusual challenges they have faced looking for Sebastian.
The threats have been coming both in person, by phone, and also online. So we have multiple places that we're dealing with this, but we have turned over information to the local authorities so they can take action.
In the meantime, Sebastian's biological dad, Seth Rogers, says he hopes the FBI gets involved in the search for his son.
I don't know what to believe. I mean, all I know is that he has disappeared out of his mama's house, and it's my job to find him and bring him home.
What happened to Sebastian? Joining me now is former FBI agent and NewsNation Law and Justice contributor Jennifer Koffendorfer. Jennifer, the timeline of this case is peculiar. The circumstances around it, the police say no foul play. What stands out to you at this point in this investigation?
Well, I think what stands out to me is, Marni, it's been 2.5 months. And not only do we not have any signs of life regarding Sebastian, we also have no signs of foul play. So basically, at this point, it seems like he vanished. And that's very peculiar in a case like this, for 2.5 months to go by with really no clue.
Take us back to the beginning of this investigation. What we knew at the time in February was Sebastian's mom went to check on him, get him up for school. He wasn't there. His shoes were left at the door. His cell phone, all the other things that a teenager would have were left behind. When investigators show up to look for a kid in these circumstances, an Amber Alert was issued. What happens immediately?
Well, immediately, canvass of that neighborhood has to be done, and it has to be done correctly, where basically every house in that neighborhood is gone to, where it's searched, where all possible areas he could leave and go to would be searched. Secondarily, and really I should say just as importantly, it's important to get a bloodhound or a scent dog on his scent immediately. And that's for the purpose of seeing if he can be traced outside of that door and what steps he might have taken. Obviously, also video camera and footage that might have been taken in and around that neighborhood could prove quite important. Yet still, all of these possible avenues have gone and led nowhere.
Does it surprise you investigatively that nothing has turned up, that any clues so far?
It really does surprise me. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of innuendo, and actual straight out allegations regarding the family's involvement. But really, law enforcement is forced to follow clues. Even though things may seem awry, the statements made by family might be completely out of order. It's just they have to follow the facts, and they have said there is no sign of foul play.
And police say the family is cooperating, no finger pointing from mom or dad. They just want to find their son right now. I do find it peculiar that the United Cajun Navy was asked to get involved early on. We've worked with them on a lot of missing cases, and they called off their participation in the search because they were receiving threats. What do you make of that?
Well, that is not only peculiar, but it's really outlandish. We hate to see these volunteer groups, and that's what they are, Marni. No one is expecting these services to be, professionally trained even, but what you do need are boots on the ground, people to spread flyers out, people to post flyers, and people to walk these wooded areas in and around where he was. When other people start intimidating those volunteers leave, and it takes so many steps backwards on these investigations.
You know, law enforcement has a tough job, and they're often very protective of what they know. Do you believe that police investigating this know more than they're sharing at this point?
I do, Marni. I think they know much more that they haven't shared. This is one of the really tighter-lipped investigations we've seen in these types of cases. They really aren't saying anything. It took them almost 2 weeks to come out with the negative, the information that it was negative, in meaning not Sebastian Rogers in that photo. Meanwhile, a lot of people really had hope, including the parents. So I'm just, they don't obviously owe anybody an explanation, Marni. But when these types of figures and photos come out, I think it is so important to let the public know as early as possible, no, this is not him.
Right. So it's an AI photo. It immediately gets the family's hope up. We believed it was from North Carolina, and the sheriff's department came forward and said this is a fake photo. But it does beg the question as to crossing of state lines in an Amber Alert. How do law enforcement broach that issue?
Well, in these types of situations, thankfully, they have gotten the FBI involved. The FBI is assisting. They're not leading the investigation. Also, TBI is involved. But they closely work together so that any leads that come out, such as this, immediately that jurisdiction where this photo was allegedly taken could be contacted. That video footage could be called. So it's so important for everyone to work in lockstep on these cases.
How do law enforcement's resources dwindle after more time passes in a case like this?
Well, they dwindle, Marni. Make no mistake, particularly these local departments. They have only so many officers. And remember, they have a lot of other responsibilities that have nothing to do with looking for missing that they are trying to keep up with. And as time goes on, the case becomes colder and colder. And instead of having active, proactive investigation, you move to reactive. And that is where a clue will come in and you'll follow it instead of proactively looking.
What is the threshold, Jennifer, for local law enforcement, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and local police to ask for more assistance from the FBI, for example?
Well, the threshold is going to be where they literally have no clues coming in. They feel like they are at a complete standstill, and they might ask for additional resources to, as an example, spread further their ground search. But in this case, they've called off the ground search, Marni. And so unfortunately, that tells me they are just working from an intelligence base and trying to develop those clues into possibly finding him. It's not leading anywhere, Marni.
The family has shared that Sebastian is on the spectrum. How does that factor into investigators' search?
It's a huge factor because people who are on the spectrum, young children like this, we've seen this before. Connor Jack Oswalt comes to mind, you may recall. He left when he was only 17, and he just up and left, and then was later recovered 2.5 years later, over 2.5 years later. I know you covered that story well. The last case I ever worked as an FBI agent involved a child on the spectrum, and he too just left. Even though a lot of people thought that the family might have been involved, they were not involved. So I think it's very important to pay special attention to the fact he's on the autism spectrum may invoke different behavior than someone who is not.
Many families feel as though they hit a dead end after dead end, and they turn to private investigators. I know Sebastian's family has done that as well. They've also brought on people to act as a spokesperson for the family. Talk about the mentality of folks feeling as though they need to ask for outside help, and does that actually lead to answers in cases like this?
I think it can be helpful. People, though, who have this sort of experience, FBI agents that have worked these sort of missing cases for years, you want to really get somebody that's very well vetted and has the experience for two reasons. One, they know how to conduct these investigations, but secondarily, they're going to be able to better establish rapport with the local department. When a department is still working a case, though, a private investigation situation can get in the way, and they can be basically given the cold shoulder by law enforcement. So it's difficult because PIs just don't have the tools law enforcement officers do.
You know, it can be dangerous to theorize, but also can play forward possible scenarios. Do you have any theories in this case as you look at the evidence?
This is a case, Marni, that is troubling to me. It's troubling to me because the circumstances don't quite smell right from the standpoint of where could this child have gone to and never have been seen. So whenever I see something like that, yes, I am very troubled. But there are other circumstances that lead me to believe it is at least possible that he wandered off. And I say that because there has been literally not a clue, Marni, that the family was involved, and their house has been searched and scoured. So for that reason, I still have great pause that the family was involved.
And if he did wander off, they issued an Amber Alert. What does that tell you?
Well, the fact that they issued an Amber Alert, law enforcement believes that he could not have left and gone a long distance on his own, that he would have had to have been picked up and kept in like a kidnapping situation and taken. But then I still find it interesting that not one person has seen hide nor hair of him. Again, that leads us back to the origination, Marni. What happened in that house? There's only one witness, I should say two, and that is Katie Proudfoot and Sebastian Rogers.
What's the public's role in a case like this, Jennifer, not just in Tennessee, around Hendersonville, where Sebastian lived, but elsewhere, to keep their eyes and ears out for any clues?
You know, Marni, I always say people on social media have such a powerful tool, no matter whether they're TikTokers or Instagrammers or Facebookers, it doesn't matter. Everyone who puts his name and his photo out there, it proliferates, Marni. And that is something everyone can help with. Even if it can't be boots on the ground, you are providing significant information, and somebody just might see him that recognizes that photo, and it's not an AI photo. It would possibly actually be him.
Yeah, the more attention, the better in every case. Jennifer Coffendorfer, I appreciate you reading in on this one. And as always, thank you for your expertise and your experience. It means the world.
Thank you, Marni.
And again, there is an active alert in the case and search for Sebastian Rogers. If you have any information that can help in the search for this young man from Tennessee, you can contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, 1-800-TEEN. TBI Find. And make sure you join us next week as we investigate the disappearance of a woman named Julie Vesegald.
We've had people scouring every single parking lot that they could possibly think of, like especially the mental health hospitals and Walmart, shopping centers, because she was known to sleep in her car quite a bit while she was on the road.
Julie was known to take time away to herself, but she always let those close to her know where she was planning to go and what her plan was. So make sure you tune in next week as we focus on Julie's disappearance. And if there is a missing person case you think we should know about, send it to us at newsnationnow.com/missing. You can also send us tips through our NewsNation app. Thank you as always for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes in Chicago. This is Missing on NewsNation. I'll see you next week.